It's time to put your health in your own hands. Get ready to learn from today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm really excited to introduce today's guest, Krista CALLAS. Krista is a gifted life force energy catalyst who connects people more deeply to the life force inherent to nature. This powerful life force energy, this intelligent grace, uplifts and enhances health and well-being at every level as it addresses the root cause of issues and imbalances. Life force can bring calm where there is stress, clarity where there is overwhelm, and the profound rejuvenation of deep sleep where there is agitated fatigue and mental restlessness. Most profoundly, life force energy can connect us more deeply to our own divine source. Welcome, Krista.
Thank you so much, Tammy. It's great to be here.
So I've talked with you a couple times previously, and we've talked about life force energy and the Trivedi effect. And today I wanted to take a little bit deeper dive into what you're doing as a life force energy catalyst. And I want you to tell us a little bit more about reflection and self-reflection in particular, and why is that so important, especially in today's world?
Great question. Thank you for asking that. Yes. I do want to talk about self-reflection and the importance of self-reflection and self-analysis. But I think where I want to start is what is a life force energy transmission? And you already talked a little bit about that in your introduction. But I wanted to kind of weave together how the Trivedi effect and self-analysis really, they weave together in such a beautiful way to elevate our consciousness and to create profound transformation in our lives. So, what is a life force energy transmission? What does it mean to be a life force energy catalyst? It means aligning more deeply with that life force that's inherent in nature, as you mentioned. And if we look across cultures, across time, most cultures have some definition or some explanation for what is it that animates matter? What is the living spirit which imbues nature and all of living things? In China, it's called qi. In Japanese, it's ki. In the Ayurvedic Indian system, it's called prana. Even the Oxford English Dictionary has a definition of life force as that which gives something its vitality and its strength. And I wanted to read a little quote, actually, that I wrote about life force that says, "As water flows downhill, so does life force flow from a higher divine source that imbues us with potency, strength, vitality, and adaptability. It is efficient, always active, and moving forward proactively, and is intimately attuned to the frequency of nature and the earth itself. In fact, we have only to look to nature to see that life force is organized, intelligent, endlessly creative, and so very powerful. Life force is the invisible power that bonds electrons, protons, and neutrons in atoms. It is the thread that connects us to the physical body we're living in and directly reflects our level of health and vitality. Our awareness in every aspect and arena of life is also a direct reflection of the level of our consciousness and the quality of our bond with nature and with our source, with the divine." So what I do is I connect people more deeply with that life force. so that when they receive it, they may sleep better. They may begin to have more energy, become more productive. There are a whole range of benefits that people have expressed in receiving life force energy. And where the self-analysis piece comes in is that when we begin to receive life force energy, all of a sudden we might start to feel better. And as we feel better, what's happening is our consciousness, this energy actually boosts our consciousness. And when we get a consciousness boost, when we get raised to another level, all of a sudden our perception changes and we begin to see life differently. And if we turn that kind of spotlight of our attention inward, we may begin to perceive ourselves differently as well. And it can happen in both positive and more challenging ways. We see all of a sudden like, wow, I believed this and I was behaving this way, but the outcome wasn't helpful. It wasn't useful to me. And we begin to have a clearer perception of what's useful in our life and what's not useful, what works and what doesn't work. And so gray areas begin to become more defined and clear. And so we begin to have this opportunity to make changes, to implement change for a different outcome in our life. And as we do that, we become more aligned with that life force energy. And, in our culture, most people, it takes oftentimes, there's some kind of big outer event that instigates self-reflection, like maybe our career goes tumbling off at the rails, or all of a sudden our spouse comes home one day and says, I want a divorce. Or maybe we're at the doctor's office and we get a very sobering diagnosis. Those are the kind of events that tend to kind of instigate a deep self-reflection, where suddenly we begin to look at what got me to this place. But we don't have to wait for some kind of outer circumstance to kind of thrust us unwillingly. If we take up the challenge of looking in those dark corners, excuse me, we can actually align more deeply with that life force energy, because it's really all about being more and more honest with ourselves. Because the more honest and the more truthful we are with ourselves about who we really are and what's really happening in our lives and what's really getting us to the place where we are in our lives, the more honest we are, the more we're aligning with life force energy. It's like life force and truth are actually synonymous. So if we are kind of sliding past, looking in the mirror of life, we're actually kind of turning away from an opportunity to connect more deeply with our own spirit and soul, to connect more deeply with the source of all life, and with our own spirit and soul.
So could you describe some ways? It's interesting. I've been listening to you, and you know how people say, keep a journal, write down, what you're grateful for, write down different things. Some people keep a diary of different things. Other people do. They write about things in their life. When you're talking about this self-reflection, self-analysis, do you have any examples of ways that people could put this into action? And how often should you be looking at this? And what do you do if you have a block to it? Because I know sometimes, especially when it comes to writing down, I personally was like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's almost like I'm afraid of what I might find out. So do you have any suggestions for our listeners about, well, how do we start on this journey, especially if we're new to it?
Sure. Yeah. Keeping a journal is a great way, actually, to begin to just self-reflect, to write about, what happened today, and where was I, what worked for me today, and what didn't work for me today, and I wonder why. There's another thing. If you're not a writer and that doesn't appeal, you can also, like every night before bed, you can just like snuggle in and pull your covers up and close your eyes in the dark, and go back to start at about age 20, 18 to 20, and just kind of watch your life like it's a movie, and just watch like what were the major kind of transition points in your life, and who were the people there, who were your teachers and guides, who were your friends at that time, what were people saying and doing, and what was it that instigated the decision that you made, and was it a good decision, or did it take you down a road that was more that created more challenge and more difficulty? And just to kind of begin to look at what actually happened to get you from one place in your life to the next place in your life. And just for like maybe 15 minutes, it doesn't have to be a big, long, drawn out thing, but just to get started, like 15 minutes to just kind of dip your big toe in the water of, how did I get from there to here? And, just each night, just do a little bit, let your awareness kind of flow over the landscape of, where did I start, and how did I get here?
That's really interesting. And why the age that you said? Why would you want to start at about that age of looking at it? Why not later or earlier?
Well, you could start at the very beginning of your life, at your, like your family life, your upbringing, your brothers and sisters, your home life. Certainly, everything, after a while, it's like everything becomes grist for the mill, but as a starting point, especially if you're new to it, the age of 18 is typically when we leave home. We go to college, or maybe we get a job, and right around that age there are major decisions that happen in life, like right around that age. And so it's a good time to kind of look at what was happening then, and to start then, and kind of just move forward. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. That's really interesting. And then as you develop and you look at your life, and I know for me personally, when I looked back, I could see all of these things that I did that brought me to this point. Decisions I made, jobs I took, classes I took, people in my life who pointed me in certain directions. and of course talents, my natural gifts and talents that I was born with, that I worked on to improve. And then I can see how it brought me to who I am today. And of course now I look at my life in a daily way to see, well, what am I doing today? And is that also part, you start out looking at your whole life, and then obviously you kind of are alerted or awakened to what's going on. And then of course, you look at your life on a daily basis. Is this the self-reflection, self-analysis? You were talking about that this actually helps you to, well, I think you said raise your consciousness, or in the normal daily life of just being a better human being and interacting with people. Is this something that people should be doing on a regular basis, like a daily basis?
Yeah, it's a really great thing to do every day. And actually, I want to just say one more thing about why the 18, why the 18 to 20, because before that, we're in our family of origin, and typically we're being, when we're living in our family's home, we've been guided by our parents or our caregivers through our childhood, but it's at the age of 18 or 20 that we begin to make our own decisions for our own life. And so to start engaging, like at that age, like okay, from the time that I became independent from my family of origin, what kind of decisions did I make? And over time, it's like we begin to go through it with a kind of a finer and finer tooth comb, and so we get more and more current with ourselves, so that after some time, we may be just looking at the last 24 to 48 hours, like how productive was I able to be? How, what are the decisions that I made just in the last day, and how are they moving me forward or holding me back? So, there's something else here about the depth of the process of looking at ourselves and kind of having the courage to more and more look into those little dark corners where we kind of don't really want to look at that. And so, we might make an excuse, or we might give ourselves like permission in a way, like, well, I had to kind of manipulate that situation, or I had to lie there because, if I didn't, ... fill in the blank. And then we justify it. And, the more we're able to, it's like when we hit those spots, those slippery spots that we really want to just kind of zoom right over it. Those are really incredible doorways in to, to see, like, what's the real truth there about the decision that we made. And if we are able to not blame anybody else, not blame the circumstances, but just look in a very simple way at what did I actually do, and how, and if we were manipulating, or if we were making an excuse for ourselves, that place is a really rich place for investigation, because all of a sudden it will start to, I know for myself, when I do this, all of a sudden it's like when I recognize, oh, I made an excuse there. All of a sudden, because I've been doing this self-analysis each day, all of a sudden it's like little neon lights go off, like, oh, like that, things that resonate with each other, like, oh, I did it there too, and I did it there too, and I did it there too. And I begin to kind of be able to link up and see the pattern that that I've been engaging in. And usually there's like beliefs that go with it. There's a world, maybe there's a whole world view that goes with it. And it all becomes this very, if we can kind of just watch it with an openness and a wit from a witnessing place, where we're not just like judging ourselves, but we're just witnessing what we actually did. The benefit of doing this is that we then become empowered to make changes in our lives and implement something new. It's like we become more, we begin to know who we really are instead of who we think we are. And when we know who we really are, we move out of uncertainty and gray zones into a very black and white understanding of, if I do this, it's going to have this result. And do I want that result or not? What is the outcome? And is it going to be useful? Is it going to be helpful to myself and to others? And so when we join with that, we're aligning ourselves to be able to receive and like become a bigger container for more life force and more vitality and more and deeper connection to our own spirit and soul.
Wow, that's really phenomenal. So as you're talking about basically the more you reflect and look inside yourself, the more you understand whoever it is you are, and then it also connects you to life force. And when you're talking about life force, are you talking about the creator force, the God of your understanding, nature? What is your definition of life force?
Yeah, that's a big question. And it's like what we were talking about at the beginning of the recording. That life force is all of those things. It is being more deeply connection with the God of our own understanding, that which created us, our own spirit and soul, that energy that infuses all of nature, and to be able to receive more of that. It is an incredible thing to more deeply aligned and to be able to receive more life force energy, more. It's like when you think of like a calm day or like a calm summer day, and there's like a little breeze blowing, like that. You can sense the energy of nature in that. But when there's a hurricane or a tornado, and you think of how powerful nature can be, right? It's like the incredible power that is in nature to organize, to bind the very elements of electrons and protons and neutrons. I mean, it is at every level of nature, and to be able to harness that and implement that energy for the benefit of ourselves and others. The more of that we receive, the more vitality we have, the better health we have, the more our awareness and our consciousness is able to rise. And really, the happier we become, our health gets better, and we just get happier. We live a happier life.
Wow, that's really phenomenal. So, Krista, can you tell me if somebody wanted to talk to you or find out more about you and your services, how can they reach out?
Oh, sure. I have a website. It's KristaCallas.com. That's KristaCallas.com. And my email is Krista@KristaCallas.com.
Great. So everyone, if I were you, I would take advantage of reaching out to Krista, and she can tell you more about how she can help you get more connected to life force. And you can go check out her website where you'll find all kinds of information and answers about the science she's been involved with related to this, and of course, different reviews and testimonials about her. So Krista, thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking about your perspectives on self-reflection and self-analysis. It's very interesting topic, and it makes you really think, whoa, I better start looking a little deeper at myself.
It's such a great opportunity. It really is. And thank you very much for having me today. It's been wonderful. Thank you, Tammy.
Thank you. Everyone, this is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. To get more solid health and wellness information, visit OptimalHealthRadio.com.